trades that have already been analyzed. And the gentleman I'm going to bring out, he's the one analyzing these trades. Now, how long has he been trading crypto? Many, many years. I believe it's like 7 years. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 7 years he's been trading crypto. So many of us didn't even know about crypto, didn't even know about investing in crypto. And he was trading crypto from back then. So it's very, very excited to hear from him. So Crypto Picasso, if you're there, I'm going to unmute you now. Sorry for the delay on the promos, but we'd love to hear from you now. We'd love to hear what's happening with
You can hear me.
Bitcoin, man.
You can hear me good?
All good, loud and clear, loud and clear.
All right, wonderful. Man, it's great to hear everybody's stories. Just it's kind of like a reaffirmation, because I don't work the business. I'm just a master trader that does the education and the strategies, but just a reaffirmation of how this company is changing lives. Like I'm just one spoke in the wheel of all these amazing products, right? So, but just a little bit about myself. I go by the name Crypto Picasso. I have been trading crypto since 2013. And I've been trading about 4 years before that as well. So let me actually pull up my chart and enable my screen sharing. Tell my story through the charts here, because it's very important to understand how to become successful in trading. And I really feel like the way that I became successful in trading was by understanding the loss. Okay. I traded for a good 4 years before I found Bitcoin, but I wasn't successful. I taught myself technical analysis. I followed, the markets and the news and, tried to keep up with whatever was going on in the market. But I traded gold, foreign exchange, stocks, but something was missing in my trading. And then I found Bitcoin, and I found Bitcoin back here. I'll pull up the chart here to 2013. Okay, this is a daily chart. And this is where I heard about Bitcoin, right here where it crossed $1,000. And I bought my first Bitcoin here because I really understood fundamentally what Bitcoin was, what this technology was, how it was going to be disruptive, and how it could potentially be, very successful of a technology. So I bought my first Bitcoin here. And when I bought my first Bitcoin at this point in time, I felt like a genius. Like this was the trade that was going to completely change my game. Like I found something new. I'm investing. Bitcoin's going to, $100,000. It crossed 1,000, and I just kind of fell into the entire cycle of things. So it's very important to understand that in all trading, okay, what I'm going to break down in this session real quick is not just about swipe coin, about crypto, but if you're coming into trading and learning how to trade within this business, you want to know that the one thing consistent in all markets is the emotions of the traders, okay? So what Bitcoin taught me by taking this loss and buying at this point in time was that what's going on in the market is a repetitive cycle. So about right here, so after I bought about 1,050, I watched the price go down to $166 within the next year. So I took that as a lesson, and about halfway through the chart, about right here when it broke down from 500, this chart came across my desk. Now, this chart is not the Bitcoin chart. This is called the Wall Street cheat sheet. It's for a stock. But the thing is with this chart is that this structure is within all markets, okay? And the interesting thing is that when I bought my first Bitcoin, it was in a state of euphoria of the market. And that's exactly how I felt. Like I'm a genius, I'm gonna be rich. And I felt complacent, anxious, denial, panic, all the way down to anger through that investment, that initial investment in Bitcoin. So I started realizing, what had happened, started doing research. I had enough technical analysis and enough time in the charts for years to understand that as I dig through the charts, I keep seeing this structure over and over and over. And what occurred to me is that to understand, and this is where my entire strategy has been based off of, and why we've had like really good success trading, and since I've had trading just this Bitcoin market for the last 7 years, is that in all markets, to really understand to pull a winning trade, you have to understand where the loss is going to occur. Because what's happening in the market is a cycle of fear and greed over and over again. And the emotions of the traders is really what is running the market. Okay, to really understand the driving force of the market, and especially the Bitcoin market, is that there's a cycle that plays out around new price discovery. because Bitcoin is a limited supply asset class that gets cut in half. The amount that comes into creation that gets rewarded to the people who are mining it gets cut in half every 4 years. So every 4 years, there's a disruption in the supply and the demand mechanics, so to say, where it gets a little bit shaken up and it has to go through new price discovery or fail. Okay. Now, getting into why it's been so successful gets into the fundamentals and the technology, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just understanding that we have a certain situation within this market that it goes through these very big cycles based around new price discovery because of the mining reward and the supply and the demand dynamics. And as that happens, it creates the emotional market cycle, the psychology of the market, because it's the emotions of the traders that drive the market. Okay, and this is not just Bitcoin. I could show you this chart across Forex, NASDAQ, US 30. I could show you this exact structure, many, many markets in many, many different time frames. So I started to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I realized that, and even statistically, if you search it up, 80% of people who embark on trading will fail. Not to scare away new traders, but to plant the seed in your mind right now that this is a psychological cycle that's playing out in the market where the majority of people are making decisions at the wrong time. And since that's happening across all time frames and across all markets, the one thing consistent in any market is the emotions of the traders. So I started looking at the market as a cycle of loss, as something that is being run by human emotion. And once I realized and identified this, my main strategy is really based around understanding what the emotional state is of the market and where the maximum amount of loss is going to occur for the most amount of people, and pulling a winning trade out of that situation, which really comes back to buying the fear and selling the greed. It sounds so simple to buy the fear and sell the greed, but in reality, when the price goes up, people want to buy more, they want to chase it. When it goes down, they get fearful, they sell at a loss, they run away. So it's very much in trading. This is not just for Bitcoin, but in all of trading. You have to remember that you are playing a game where the majority lose. And you have to play that game understanding that you have two opponents, really, in the game. The majority of how the market is moving and yourself, and how you emotionally respond to the impulses of the market, to fear, to greed, to being in the negative, to being in profit. All of these things affect our emotions, okay? So this is something that you learn over time unless people are, show you these things first. So I want to plant this in your mind that this is a repetitive cycle. This is the driving factor of the market, all markets. This is the tide, is the emotional state of the market. Now in Bitcoin, this happens, okay, you can see here, this entire market cycle here. It happened here, we come back to here. Now these are big moves around new price discovery. Okay, in this example, Bitcoin went from just a few cents, okay, about down here is just about 20 cents or so, all the way up to $32, and then back to $2. Okay, a huge emotional cycle here. And then again, and every time it does it, many people probably remember this one here in 2018 where the price went, all the way from a couple $100s to almost $20,000 and then back to $3,000. Every time that Bitcoin does that, it's creating the emotional cycle of loss where the majority of people are investing in the market at the wrong time and don't understand that they're being part of a cycle. Okay, they're participants of the market is what makes the market move. When we measure these candles, I've come to look at the chart, all of these candlesticks, it doesn't matter what chart, what market, what time frame, whatever. The one thing consistent in every single chart in existence is the emotions of the traders. So you start to see very similar structures and Fibonacci relationships. Okay, Fibonacci in trading, and the previous guy talking was saying that he uses the harmonic scanner. The harmonic scanner is basically a tool that uses a combination of three completions of three Fibonacci relationships. Fibonacci is everything. And when I realized that I'm trading human emotion, the tool of trading when using Fibonacci to measure the print left behind by human emotion is why it works. because Fibonacci's everywhere. It's in all creation. It's in all existence. It's even within our own DNA. So when we use that tool within trading, we're literally trading, and we're like, these candlesticks are an expression left behind by the fear and the greed of the traders and the cycle of loss. Now this chart right here, I could show it to you on a weekly. I could show it to you on a 5-minute chart, or even on any time frame. So the market moves within fractals of human emotion and expression of human behavior. And turning that into a strategy is how we become so successful at trading this market, because I understand firstly what Bitcoin is and what it's capable of. So you can't really trade Bitcoin like you trade other markets, because Bitcoin will defy traditional technical analysis, because it pushes the extremes of human emotion to very high levels, because there's a limited supply. Okay, that's the one key factor in Bitcoin. There's only so many Bitcoins. So when it starts to go through this push and impulse in price, and we start to go through the belief, the thrill and euphoria, it gets pushed to levels that would, completely not be reached in other traditional markets. Okay, like extensions in price. So understanding that Bitcoin is this cycle that's repeating, this based upon the expression of fear and greed in the market. Now, when you look at the markets like this, every time that it goes through this cycle, it creates the cycle of loss, where the majority of people are losing. Like anybody who buys during belief, thrill, and euphoria, if they don't take profit, when over here they're feeling angry and depressed. Okay. And then you notice over here disbelief, and also disbelief over here, because the market is like repeating like waves of emotion. Okay. Now, understanding this, that when most people think about Bitcoin, they will think about how somebody they know probably invested in Bitcoin at the wrong time, because a lot of people will lose money getting involved in this market at the wrong time. So the biggest thing I want to lay down now for people, especially at this point in the cycle, is that the price is going to go very high, and you don't want to chase it. You always want to buy that fearful wave down, and understanding that it has the potential to go up, but not be part of the participants chasing it up and losing money, during the process. Okay. So as this happens every 4 years, it creates this cycle of loss. But when you look at the chart like this over time, it looks confusing to a lot of traders. It looks like it just goes through these bubbles, like these big booms and busts. But when we look at Bitcoin in the logarithmic chart, is when you really start to understand what Bitcoin is and what it's doing. Now, this is the logarithmic chart over time, which just looks at the market in a little bit of a different way, where each one of these cycles, okay, you can now see that, this is that one cycle, here's the other cycle. Okay, each time it creates these cycles, it's creating higher lows. Okay, so even though Bitcoin went from a few pennies to $32, it went back to $2. It was still higher in price than where it started. And then even though it went from about $2 to $1,100 and came back to 166, it was still higher than where it started. Same thing. So as this is happening over time, Bitcoin has become the highest performing asset class ever in the last decade, and probably in existence at this time, because nothing is ever going up so exponentially in price over time. Now, the reason for this is that, and this is where it comes down to like really knowing what you're trading, like what makes Bitcoin different. When we're trading stocks and foreign exchange and stuff like that, like there's not a limited supply, and they are basically controlled in some way or form by a company's performance or country or some, like Bitcoin has no ownership. Like there's no government that owns it. It is a technology and a digital payment platform that can't be stopped. Like Bitcoin is so disruptive that it has the power to completely change like everything going forward. Like all the trust mechanisms that we have in our society, where there's a third party involved, can all be eventually put on the blockchain and automated through processes that have become possible through cryptocurrency technology. So what we're really looking at here when we look at the price of Bitcoin is a direct reflection of the adoption of the technology. And so this is what you always want to remember. And you can't just limit your mind to saying, oh, there's no way that Bitcoin can go to $100,000. Because my personal target on Bitcoin is I think that Bitcoin is going to go into the $200,000 to $300,000 range in the next like 3 years. Like, and this is based on my experience of being in this market since way back here, because I understand that what we're viewing here when we look at this chart is not just price in dollars. It's a direct reflection of the adoption of a technology. Because when we start to look at things like this chart right here, every single one of these lines is a technology that is just common now. But at one point in time, it didn't exist. Now, all of these technologies changed our lives, but we didn't really notice the exponential gain in adoption, let's say, because there was no price tag attached to it. Like for myself, like I'm 44 years old. I remember not having a cell phone. I remember having a beeper, and then I remember cell phones in black bags, and I remember the flip phones, and I remember to the point now where I send my ideas through a smartphone to thousands of people. Like that growth in that technology, right? It's so commonplace now. I didn't make money off of cell phones. I couldn't make money on any of these technologies. To have made money on the disruptiveness and the adoption of any of these technologies, it wasn't really possible. Like you could invest in a company that worked in that space, but you're not really making like the success of that investment depends on that company, not on the growth of the technology, let's say. Bitcoin's the first time ever that we and anybody has the opportunity to own a piece of a limited supply technology. So over time, Bitcoin, what it's doing is it's creating an adoption curve. Okay, Bitcoin's chart over here is basically creating this, the adoption of a technology. Okay, like we're probably about maybe like 20% saturation, if you think about it. And remember, the more the adoption of Bitcoin, the more the price is going to go up. This is by default because there's a limited amount of Bitcoins. Okay, simple supply and demand dynamics and money in global markets shows us that the more that Bitcoin becomes adopted, it could very well go up exponentially in price. So understanding this, positioned myself in front of a very large trend, and has taught me how to trade this very successfully. Because first, understanding what it's capable of. Second, understanding that there is a cycle of human emotion that is going to play out when these cycles happen. Okay, so for instance, right now, and all of this stuff like has a relationship of how it plays out to Fibonacci. Because remember, what we're doing when we're trading is trading human emotions. The quicker you can learn that, if you're new, the quicker you can learn that, the more successful you will be. Like that we are just trading human emotions, and your biggest enemy in this is really yourself, and your management of money and your impulsive nature or your patience. It really does come down to when you decide to press the button. You can learn technical analysis all day long, but to really be patient and wait for your entries, and when everybody else is looking to buy, you're looking to sell because you understand we've reached an extension of Fibonacci. Or when everybody else is fearful and they're selling and they're running away, you understand, hey, this is a really good place to buy and invest in the market. So once you start to realize these things, you will become, and it's not just Bitcoin, this is any market, this is true to any kind of investing mindset, that you have to really first know yourself and how you're going to respond to the market. I really feel like once I learned this, I went from being not so successful, or not where I could become profitable all the time, to where, I mean, I've won like 36 out of the last 37 trades in a row. And I mean, these are like, not just like 20 pip moves, these are like hundreds of pip moves. Like, because right now, Bitcoin is moving. Like, this is like a very exciting time to trade Bitcoin because the volatility, right? Like, volatility is your friend when you're trading. All right, like for instance, like every dollar that Bitcoin moves is a pip. For you guys that don't know what a pip is, like it's a percentage of a point in the market. It's a measurement of what your profits are measured in, right? So like, for instance, like you can make $1 per pip, you can make $10 per pip, depending on your broker and your leverage. But when Bitcoin moves, it's moving hundreds of pips, thousands of pips at a time within like 3 to 5 days, usually. So we're catching some very big moves lately with Swipecoin that honestly, they're changing people's lives. I mean, this is not, we're not taking crumbs out of the market. When we're trading the market, we're not looking for small little pieces. Like, it's kind of like the Zane was saying, like small risk, but looking for that big reward. Like, I've come to the point that I know how this market performs where I'm looking for risk to reward setups of, I'm not really even trying to enter a trade unless I can get 3 to 5 times more than I risk out of it, which is really hard to do in a lot of markets, and specifically in this market. So I'll never really have a stop loss more than 150 pips, but my targets are like 500 pips, 800 pips, 2,000 pips on some of these moves. And this is not just Bitcoin. We're trading XRP, we're trading Ethereum. We're also trading some altcoins, which is a whole nother discussion because I know people who are coming into cryptocurrency have that interest as far as what this coin, like a lot of people will hit me up, but like, what do you think of this coin? Or what do you think of this coin? Or what do you think of that coin? And the thing with cryptocurrency is you have to remember that it's such a new trending technology that there's always going to be a coin that's going to have some hype about it. But every single coin is always going to go through this cycle. There's no escape. Every single coin. And you don't ever want to get emotionally attached to a coin and think that this coin is going to be the next Bitcoin, or this coin I'm going to hold on thinking it's going to go higher because they have a new development or new release or something. You don't want to get sucked into the emotional cycle of trading, and especially in altcoins. So when we trade altcoins, they're really just to make quick more dollars or more Bitcoin. So I just want to tell people about that first, because we do trade altcoins, and these are coins that you can get on like Binance or Coinbase, depending on where you're at in the world. But like for some of these moves, like, you know, we bought this one here, Uniswap, just like last Sunday at 265, and this thing's at like 408 right now, over 50% up in 1 week, just on that one coin. So there's massive opportunities in trading, you know, in MetaTrader 4, in trading the altcoins, and just understanding how these markets are performing and how you can make money trading these markets. Because with Swipecoin, we have several different strategies. Like myself and Nick Gomez, the other master trader. So now Swipecoin comes in a mobile app, but also comes here on the desktop, which is easier for me to display here. But we have all these ideas. These are swing trades, MetaTrader 4 ideas, exchange ideas. We keep everybody up to date with what's going on in these chats. Okay, like keeping you tuned into the trade, where to move your stop loss, if the trade's still valid, all that good stuff. We have a complete video library in here in several different languages. Okay, like breaking down all the basics of you know, trading and how you would want to use these products most efficiently. We have a Scalper over here, which is these. I think I already have it up here. Yeah, which is, these are algorithms that are programmed with strategies that I'm looking for in the market to give you the smaller moves in the market. You know, like this thing is automatically updating and calling out trades every couple hours for smaller moves. But we're also using this to let you know, some more technical analysis on these charts as to what the market can do. You know, like I've been trading this market, just Bitcoin, for 7 years. Like, so I'm in this market all day. Like I mean, I see charts in my sleep at this point when it comes to Bitcoin. Like, so I'm always like keeping people in tune. Like, okay, we're looking for this on the 1 hour for the swing. Here on this chart here in the 15-minute, here's where we could pull a scalp, maybe in the opposite direction even. So not a lot of value here as far as like just with IM. I mean, look at this list on the side. Like every single one of these is a product and an algorithm and a strategy that can help you develop skills to learn how to make money in the market. Like I said, I'm just one spoke in the wheel of this great product line that IM has. My job is just trading cryptocurrency. I love to trade this market. I feel like the potential here to educate people about this trend is enormous, because we're getting positioned here where, I mean, if I'm right, I feel like next year in 2021 is going to perform very similar that like 2017 did, which means that we should probably see huge exponential growth in Bitcoin, okay, over the next year, very similar to this. Okay, basically, we are at a point in time in the market structure. Right. This is how early we still are in this trend. I feel like this is Bitcoin right here in 2016, making this little push up right here like this. Right now, Bitcoin is making a similar type of a move where, honestly, I feel like Bitcoin's probably going to go to like 17 or 18 and then slam back down to like 12 and move. But we would want to buy that. And then I feel like Bitcoin has the potential to do something very similar to this over the next year. Big impulsive wave. As it goes to new price discovery, you can see that once we break the previous all-time high, the markets get crazy. Okay, so that's what the market's job is to do next. It wants to break this previous all-time high and then start to go through new price discovery. So just to know, like, yeah, if you're late or early with Bitcoin right now in this wave up, I feel like it's a little bit too late. It needs a nice pullback, right? It needs a nice sell-off where there's some fear in the market. It's not just greed. When that sell-off happens, that would be a very good time to invest in Bitcoin for the next year, honestly, because if this happens the way I think that it's going to happen, we're going to sell back to 12 and then we're going to start next year just running for this high and then just keep going, like well up into the 30, 40, $50,000 range. Because remember, this is a market that the majority of the legacy markets, like, the people who are in real estate and bonds and foreign exchange, and, this is still new to them. A lot of people aren't invested in Bitcoin just yet. There's money on the sidelines. So once Bitcoin starts to take off, I feel like this wave that comes is going to be where we see more and more big companies and institutions investing in Bitcoin that are, starting to normalize it more. And then what we're actually doing in Aftersight is creating more and more adoption and normalcy behind Bitcoin along the way. So remember, we're trading a very new technology. It has limited supply. If you hold some Bitcoin, just hold it. I mean, literally just hold it for like the next 2 years max, and it should really go up in price. Because there's nothing else that has ever really given us the opportunity. Like, this isn't just a stock or how a company is going to perform, or no, like, this is a limited supply, global payment network, and a Swiss bank in your pocket, really, kind of thing. Like, I mean, there's never ever been anything like Bitcoin. It's like, to say it's similar to gold is just an understatement in a sense, because gold, think about it like this: if you wanted to put all your money into gold and you wanted to move your physical location, how are you going to move with even a couple $1,000 worth of gold, a couple $100,000 worth of gold? You can't even move it physically. Definitely can't cross borders with it. So cryptocurrency, you can literally have money on a piece of paper or just a passcode in your head or a little USB device. So it's, frictionless, borderless. And we're building on top of this now with different layers of coins and applications. So, man, the future is here. You see how fast everybody, when you go out, you got to scan a QR code to look at a menu. It's just one step closer to scanning a QR code and making a digital payment, having a cashless system. So educating yourself on these things now is super important because it's super relevant. Plus, you have a chance to position yourself in front of the trend before the chart starts to look like this over the next year and a half, because we're just keep scrunching it down, because that's what happens with Bitcoin. You start to look at it in a certain perspective, and then you would literally have to change the chart. Like, this is what the chart looked back here. This is about the same point in time where market is about right here, making that nice push up towards that previous all-time high, and then it has to come back test a little bit, and then we should get really going next year. So understanding this, understanding the emotional cycle behind it, the opportunity of where to invest, and also how to catch pips along the way, because the way that we have it set up, and I love the way that it is now, because when I first started trading Bitcoin, it was really like the Wild West. Like, you could sign up anywhere with an email and that's all you needed, and you could just send some Bitcoin there and make a bunch more Bitcoin, and like there's nothing except the email address attached to it. And there was limited places to do it where, you know, you could have access to stuff like that. But now it's like we can trade, and a lot of it was shady exchanges where you didn't know if they were going to be there tomorrow when you logged in. So it's like now it's like we can purchase Bitcoin through Cash App, Coinbase. We can trade a MetaTrader 4 with the brokers. And this is the best part about what I love what we're doing with Swipecoin, because these are all MetaTrader 4 ideas. This is the same place that you're trading Forex, same place you're trading US 30, same place you're trading gold. You can trade these crypto pairs in there, stack up US dollars, and then on the days that Bitcoin sells off really bad, withdraw your US dollar profits into Bitcoin, and now you're stacking up and compounding your gains. So just think about that. Like, we have a way now that we can catch pips, make dollars, withdraw Bitcoin in a rising tide of a trend. So if you really start to put these things together, you realize that, you know, the opportunity right now to get involved with crypto and to understand how to position yourself and, you know, take advantage is priceless. Like, get involved if you're not already. Like I would say, come join us on Swipecoin. I'm gonna pass it back to you, Zane. And guys, just trust me, crypto is going to change a bunch of people's lives, and you want to be on board.
Thanks so much.